Greetings, I'm your brother, Minister Wasim Muhammad. Welcome to the Wasim Muhammad Show, where you hear the lively art of conversation as a result to our community, our town, our county, and our region here. We're going to have some wonderful conversations as we continue to have some wonderful conversations. But I want to first thank our wonderful mayor of the city of Camden, Mayor Dana Red, for the opportunities that she gives so many people, not only just from Camden, but outside of Camden, to help bring and turn this city around, particularly talking about the partnership with the school district here with our wonderful superintendent, Mr. Payman Rahanaford, as well as the advisory board member given to us and leading to our advisory board member, Ms. Catherine Blackshear, and also Vice President, Ms. Martha Wilson. And on behalf of them, I would like to thank them for this opportunity to be here with you to highlight some wonderful and great people out of the city of Camden that's doing some wonderful things in our region and county. But I have with me this afternoon, or this evening, a wonderful brother whom many of you see in our community, but you probably don't know too much about him because he's a real humble person. And our brother and our friend, Brother Martin Sartin. Greetings, brother. How's it going?
God bless.
And good to see you, man.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to have you, man. As I said earlier, you're such a humble brother, and a lot of people see you in Camden. You did some wonderful things. I know your story. As we just got finished taping and you were in here, we were taping Mike Rozier, a standout athlete here in the city of Camden, and went to Woodrow Wilson High School and Heisman Trophy winner and great NFL career and some wonderful things. We always paid attention to those who were older than us, and Mike was older than you, but you came behind him at Camden High School and stood out not only on the football field, but also in track. And I wanted to give the people in the city of Camden, the community and the region, to know a little more about Martin Sartin. So start talking.
Right. Basically, you know, I grew up on the 1500 block of 8th Street, Centerville area, and I lived right behind 8th and Thurman, Centerville Symbols Park, where, you know, I came from a single parent home. My mom and grandma, my mom worked at Campbell Soup. My grandmother was employed at RCA, always had a strong spiritual background. And I could hear the roar of the kids behind, you know, the house during football season. You know, I wasn't able to play yet, but I always took my head out the door or always watched the game real close. And it was some men out there that I didn't know. And I would watch them, and I just admired the attention that the kids gave these men. And these 3 men ended up being, one was Arnold Bird, one was Demary Abione, which is Donald Council, and one was Pat Freeman. So, you know, I asked my mom one day, you know, could I play? You know, I remember it just like yesterday. I think she might have been frying chicken or something. She might have said, "You ready? You want, you know, this is it. You want to go out there?" And I looked. I said, "I'm ready." You know what I mean? So she grabbed me by the hand and walked me through the gate. We went back there. First person I met was Coach Pat Freeman, and my mom said, "Take care of my son," and it basically was on from there because I really wanted to play football.
Yes,
you know what I mean? And it was a community thing. Basically, you know, you would hear names, you know, of players to watch growing up. At the time, you know, East Camden, being from Centerville, we didn't really pay attention to the players on the east side because we didn't play them much. But everybody knew about Rosedale's Mike Rozier. You know, he just was a legendary kid player.
Yes,
and we had this tournament in the city. It was called the City Championship. They would take kids, well, teams from all over, East Camden, downtown, Centerville, Whitman Park, and we would play we would play against each other. Now you got a chance to see, you know, the great Mike as a kid. And
so you graduated in high school, Camden High School in 1982, and 82. I think Mike Rozier, that is, graduated in 1979. 80. So you was a freshman when he was a senior. And did you think watching him shine on the football field, did that inspire you a lot?
No, I played against him. Okay. Actually played against Mike. I was a sophomore. Coach Moore put me out there on the kickoff team. Bad mistake. Mike don't even remember, you know what I mean? I remember them just pitching the ball back to him, and I was faster than other kids. He might have hit me with a knee. He don't remember. I don't remember. I woke up. I was just happy to be a part of the tackle.
Yes,
you know
sir. Yeah.
So it was, it was a great time then, and that was my experience at a young age.
Yeah.
Sad to say, we had a bad outburst. During the
Correct.
course of his senior year, he didn't get the chance to finish his senior game.
Well, when talking with Mike, he was saying that Camden High paid somebody so that he wouldn't score that touchdown. But that's great conversation that we have in Camden. But like I know you played professional football for the Los Angeles Raiders at the time. It was the LA Raiders. I believe they're Oakland Raiders now.
Right.
And they moved back to Oakland, and also you played for the San Diego Chargers as well too.
Right.
A season or two with them. And as you talked about Centerville, playing for the Centerville Simbas, you talked about some wonderful people. And I must mention Arnold Bird. And I mean, I'm also, people don't know, even though I play basketball, I am a Centerville Simba, because I was too light at early age. Whitman Park was the team that everybody wanted to play for with the the great Frank Philippe, who was the former mayor of Belmar, that is. And he might be still the mayor of Belmar. I'm not sure of that. But Frank Philippe, and they had a great program there at Whitman Park. And everybody wanted to play for Whitman Park, especially in Parkside, where I grew up at.
I played for Whitman Park.
Yeah, but I went around there, Martin, and Frank looked at me and said, "Man, you too small." He called me Little Walker then, because everybody called me Little Rook or Little Walker then, from my older brother being a great standout athlete here in the city of Camden before me. And he said, "No, you too small." And some of my friends was trying to tell him, "Yeah, but this little guy has the heart." But because I didn't grow until later, so I had to walk all the way to Centerville. While they walked to Whitman Park, I had to walk all the way to Centerville and play for the Simbas for Coach Pat and Coach Demary and Mr. Arnold Bird, who I have had a great deal of respect for, not only as a former athlete, but a businessman in the city of Camden, and somebody that gave back. And all of those wonderful brothers that gave back into the Centerville Simbas football program to give children, youth, and families something to do with the children. And you want to speak a little bit about that?
As far as giving back?
In Centerville, not only giving back, but just in Centerville, growing up playing for this Centerville. You said you was listening to them out in the backyard.
Yeah,
so
I was inspired by them once I got a chance to know him. Coach Pat Freeman was my first coach. Apparently had a tryout with the Dallas Cowboys. The deal with these three guys, Pat Freeman, Donald Council, and Arnold Bird, they was college graduates in the 70s, you know what I mean? And that meant a lot. Bird was a star football player at Camden, went on the Rutgers to play running back. Demary went on the Temple, great track star, and Coach Pat. So I just think that, it was militant, it was the 70s. We was in order. We played outside of Camden. We didn't play in the city of Camden. We played teams Stratford Falcons, Voorhees, Oak Valley, which is Deptford, and we had a certain mystique if you played for Centerville, about yourself through these men. These men instill discipline, to be coachable, and to follow directions. If you can do these things, you can be a great player, with your character, personality. If you venture out to other things, if you use these tools, you can do some great things.
Yes, that's a wonderful thing. And the reason why I know so much about your career and you personally, not only because that you preceded me, not preceded me, that you came before me, and I came, preceded after your career, is that I grew up in Parkside, across the street from the Camden High School football field. So I was always in tune with Camden High football. We were young people. We were inspired by the fact that every Saturday morning Joe Rowland would get the field together. We would help Joe Rowland get the field together. And, I remember when Art Still and Derek Ramsey and them guys, and Frank Green and those guys played for Camden High School, we would run home and do our homework. And for their practice, we would run over and help out, to be around those guys and watch those guys. And so I did with you. I was in middle school, really elementary school, when you first started your high school career, and watching you not only over in the football field, shine on the football field, on the football field, you were also a great track star too as well. You ran track. You said how quick you were when you was playing against Mike Rozier. You want to talk about that? How being an athlete, all-around athlete, how did that help you and make the person who you are today?
You know what? Actually, that started from basketball. Because 8th grade, I averaged like 12 points a game from Morgan Village. And, excited about going to Camden High as a freshman, Milt's there, Billy's not there yet, but just a great basketball history. But I walked outside the gym one day and it was a coach there named Coach Simp. He was the track coach. And he put his arm around me, and Milton was in there shooting, and he said, "You ain't never gonna play basketball." He said, "You 5'10". You know what I mean? I know who you are. I know you're a great athlete. Come out on this track. And it just made sense. You know what I mean? My height, my athletic ability, being a football player, why not connect the two? The faster you are in the NFL world, the more money you're worth. So it was important to run track. And Coach Simp wasn't an excellent old guy on the football field. Or he wasn't a great teacher, but he was a great motivator.
Yes, he
could
was.
get up underneath your skin and make you believe that you can do anything. He really had three guys, Barry Alexander, myself, and Martin Booker, really had our minds, making us believe that we could be the best track stars in the city. Me and all three of us played football too. So I ran the 100. I was like 10'8", and I ran the 200. But I loved the 400. It was one time around. I was a 400-meter champion, 48 flat. I used to battle with one of the great players from Pennsauken, Keith Turner. Went on to play in the NFL. We used to battle in the 400, and I got him. You know what I mean? So I ran one of my fastest times against him. And going into my senior year, that really exploded my football career. Because I could just outrun people, once I got in open space, even though I had good size as a back, probably about 190 pounds, I would just do my best to just blow away from him and just get away from him. And that track really, gave me some serious success, with that senior year.
I said that's great. And I heard you mention something about family, grew up in your mother's home, and we're going to take an abbreviated moment to go back, and I know we're going to take a quick break in a minute, and but there's something I want to segue us up to this conversation. You talked about, and your mother's here in the studio here, and I heard you speak the other day at one of the community events that our superintendent of schools had, Mr. Payman Rohanaford, when he was giving us an update on the status of our schools here in the city of Camden, and you spoke from the community, and you spoke about the importance of academics and athletics, and how academics and athletics, because you had a mother who was stressing that it kind of deterred you a little bit from your football dreams, and and you felt as though as you were recruiting now, and we didn't get a chance to go in there, we're going to go to that you need to, a lot of the parents, the adults, need to understand why athletics and academics have to go together. And we want to talk a little bit about that when we come back. If you want to start and just give us a little segue into that conversation before we come back.
Right. I just felt like just looking at my mom's work ethic, the way she worked. A lot of parents went to work before we went to school back in the day. They might even to this day. And we was in order enough that her rules were the rules, and we followed them just throughout the day. So, as a parent, I know what she expected me, but during our era, education wasn't really big trying to play sports. You just played, and you didn't really think about that. So it was something that made me think, what do I need to get out? What do I need to go to a Division I college? You know what I mean? And I started just putting my own work in. Hey, I went and spoke to my guidance counselor on my own. What's my transfer? What's my GPA?
And that's so important. And we got to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about that how you went to your guidance counselor, how important it is, because sometimes children may not have a role model in their home or family or their block, a community. Unfortunately, Camden, and some areas of Camden or some homes in Camden, they don't have that outreach, and this is why we intend to have this show, to give young people this outreach. So we're going to come back, and we have in the studio with us our brother and friend, Brother Martin Sartin, a great community guy, born and raised here in Camden, who went out and did some wonderful things, went and played with the Raiders and Chargers and NFL, and came back to a city, an educated man, have some wonderful things to talk about. And just take a moment, and we'll be right back in a few minutes.
So many kids' activities today seem to leave out the activity part. New research tells us that just getting children to walk an extra 35 minutes a day could spare them the pain of thinning bones later in life. Encourage your kids to get up, get out, and get moving.
Hello.
Hey, Grandma, how about another grape soda?
A public service message on building strong bones for kids from the Pediatric Orthopedic Society of North America and the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons.
And welcome. We are back, and we have with us in the studio a nice, wonderful, humble brother that you may see in our community, but you may not know too much about him. And we're having a lively art of conversation with our brother and friend, Brother Martin Sartin. And before we took the break, you was talking about, you know, your mother, your role of your mother that she played in you as you was trying, had a little struggle that many of us do. Former athletes and athletes when it comes to education and athletics and marrying them two together, because both of those things have to go together in order for you to be successful in life. And sometimes one keep your attention until you grow academically. And you can, because education is not, at the moment for me, education is an ongoing experience. Education is X's and O's. Education is everything, history, knowledge of yourself. But you was talking about your mother. If you want to continue to say about how your mother played that role as you was talking about that at that community event that the superintendent was at.
Well, like I was saying, you know, it was just her work ethic and her being a hard worker. You know, I just wanted to please her. You know, I just wanted to be proud of me. You know what I mean? But what I had to do was combine the two. You know, education and athletic. And athletic ability was there. But I had to do my own research on, like, why are so many players before me, great players? I can name a few, Keenan Dults and Greedy Knock, and, you know, Mark Butcher, all these backs that was just, where are these guys? Like, why aren't they going D1? I wanted to know. I don't want to be caught up in that. So I went to my guidance counselor. She told me what my GPA was. And at the time, you know, it's the 80s. You know, it's no SAT training.
Yes,
you know what I mean? You just went in there and just took it. You know what I mean? I took it 3 times, didn't get what I wanted on it, got passed by Kentucky, Pitt, Ohio State, Syracuse. I had like 20 on the table. But, you know, Syracuse, Kentucky, Pitt waited it out, you know, for that last try, didn't pass it, track season. Sad part for us, we had to take those tests before games. So you were kind of off. You was off balance. You worrying about the game, and then you worrying about the test. You know, it was a little unfair, I felt, the way we had to go about it. But, you know, didn't pass it, cried about it a little bit. My mom told me, you know, it's another way to get this done. You know what I mean? We just got to figure it out. You know, so I got myself together, got off the floor.
You keep saying your mother. Do you want to give her a shout out, Miss
Right.
the name?
Hazel Sartin, Tootin,
Yes.
sitting right here in the audience. You know, that's my stepson. That's the person that just kept me together. And that was my clay. You know, at a young age, you know, you need to be inspired, you know, by your parents in some type of way. You know what I mean? Some parents not there for their kids. We understand that, you know what I mean? But those that are, you know, need to be appreciated.
Yes, sir. And wonderful family. I mean, your brother Keith, you know, wonderful guy who I came out with. We came out of high school the same year, and he's a wonderful guy, you know, very animated, and I love him. Every time I walk a step up to him, I can tell that, you can tell, as they say, you can tell the fruit or a tree by the fruit it bear, and meeting your mother and seeing the community, how she's involved in the community, and allowed me to see, because you said something about that you grew up in a single parent home, and Mike Rozier and I talked about the importance and the relevance, and that he pushed so much about talking about growing up in a 2-parent home. And I think that, and that was the same with me. I grew up in a 2-parent home. My mother and father was there. So I saw the difference in some young men who I grew up with that didn't have the 2 parents and have their father in their life. And what do you think attributed to that? You grew up in a single-parent home with your mother, as we stopping for a moment to talk about your mother, why it made you inspired and kept you on the right road. That's different today than you see yesterday.
The big difference is just the community. You know, on my block, I had several men. You know, one's a carpenter, you know, one's a plumber. You know, they was all employed. You know, but I surrounded myself. My friends all had 2 parents in their home. You know what I mean? It's the way you look at life. You know what I mean? I'm saying, yeah, you know, having one parent, you know, it's a struggle for one parent to do 2 jobs. You know what I mean? But I surrounded myself around people that had that. You know, I was inspired by many men. You know, and that's the difference. You know, you're not allowed to talk to kids like you used to. You know, one of my biggest mentors was an older guy, one of the biggest stars in the city, Itchy Smith. You know, I constantly went into the store on 10th Street, and Itchy picked away at my athletic ability. You need to fix this. You need to work on that. You need to fix this. You know, it's really character and personality for some people to get you through. And, you know, I could say, you know, Mike was a better athlete than me, you know what I mean? But how do you measure that, you know what I mean? By everything that he accomplished, you know what I mean? In my case, I'm blue collar, you know what I mean? I went from junior college to D1, you know, I fought it out at Long Beach State, MVP, the most valuable record at Long Beach State. I played against the toughest talent, you know, Randall Cunningham was at UNLV, Webster Slaughter, and Collins, the corner that won a couple Super Bowls with the Giants. You know, I did my thing, you know, but opportunities are limited. You know what I mean? And you have to make the best of it, you know, when you get a shot. You know, Rosie can tell you, which is, you know, they call Mike Rozier in the league. You know, I didn't even know they called him that until I was, you know, at a New England game playing. But as far as sports, you might only get one shot.
Correct.
You know what I mean? They looking at the film like, I don't know.
Do you feel what your mother, some of the principles that your mother instilled in you, helped you to manage you in sports and it helped to balance you out, you know, with that? Because I know during that era, the mothers was tough.
Right.
You know, they, you know, we have to, you know, bring that back a little bit because unfortunately so many of the mothers were by themselves, but they made sure and they connected with wonderful people in the community that when they knew that their sons or grandchildren needed to be around men, you know, they inspired that. They wanted to know who you were hanging around. And so I know you have some wonderful stories to talk about that, you know.
Well, some of those stories I can't, you know, you got diapers, you got all these different things. You can't get spanked like you did back in the day, but I took some good ones. You know, but you know what? To be honest about it, I remember real clear, I never got disciplined for the same thing. It had to be something else. You know, once I learned that lesson, then it was something else. It was another obstacle. But once she laid it down, Hazel Sartin laid it down, it was done. You know what I mean? I'm not doing that no more. But I do want to say this, you know, to the young people about family. The rules that my mom set in the house, I followed them outside the house. And that's an issue today. You know, a lot of young people having kids, they don't have a lot of rules, you know what I mean? But the rules that she set, even at 6 a.m. when she went to work, when she slammed the door, it wasn't no, I'm going hooky, I'm going to do this, no. You know, my mom only at Campbell Soup, I'm at Camden High. Well, you know, you can't get away from that. So, you know, I remember clear, you know, the rules that she set, and I was going to follow them, you know, during my day, during the course of my day, you know, and I was constantly reminded of that. Because, you know, once again, you know, you take real pride in a parent that cares, you know, so I took a lot of pride, stuck my chest out, you know, that my mom was at all my games, you know, she supported me, you know, did I do the right thing all the time? You know, I wasn't a kid that was in a lot of mischief. I was really focused, like, I can't hang around this crowd, we're friends, but I have limits, you know what I mean? Because I'm trying to get out of here. And if I keep doing what you guys are doing, we still friends, but I'm gonna have to separate myself. And that's where college come into play.
Yes, sir.
You know, when they talk about great athletes in the city, you know, you can't measure Mike Rozier to great running backs at Wilson or myself at Camden because it's separation. I played Division I football, you know, in some of the biggest stadiums in the world, you know what I mean? So, you know, you know, we played on the same field several times. You know, I done ran on the Rose Bowl, the Coliseum. I done played, I scored touchdowns in Hawaii. You know, college took me places, you know, in my head that I really wanted to go. You know what I mean? I really was a big UCLA fan, you know, as a kid. I dreamed about, you know, playing in the Rose Bowl. You know, one day I'm gonna be in this stadium, and I have a very large picture in the house of playing the Rose Bowl. I didn't play for UCLA. I ended up playing for Long Beach State, but just to be, you know, to live that out, you know, was a great experience. And, you know, my mom had everything to do with getting me there.
Yes, sir. And I think the viewers will really appreciate that message and help to inspire some of our young women who may be struggling with, of what to do, and Camden got the city of Camden and the local board of education got some wonderful programs, and this is what we plan on doing with this show, to highlight not only great people from Camden, but to give our people information of what they can do and what they, what's out there,
Right.
so they can be inspired to get that mission. I know for me, during the time you were on the West Coast, I knew what you were doing when
Right.
you was on the West Coast, because I happened to be on the West Coast myself as well, and it was just a great time for Camden. It was something about Camden at the time that was shining, that was in the air, as the same kind of feeling that you feel now that's happening and is bringing it out. And you talked about being having to go to junior college, and being that, and then finally reaching your goal.
Right.
To, because I shared that same experience too, and finally reaching your goal to end up at Long Beach State, a 4-year school. How difficult was the transition growing up in Camden? First of all, on the West Coast,
Right.
you know what I mean? And then coming from a school, a large high school, but predominantly black high school, but going to a high school, Long Beach State, and other ethnic groups and other ethnic people there, nationalities there. Was the adjustment, do you think, what went on in your home, the things you've seen, how was the adjustment?
Well, you know what? Actually, for me, it was easy. It was an easy adjustment because '79, my freshman year, I think around March, my mother and father got back together, and I moved to the West Coast. So I was actually at Wainimi High School in Oxnard, California. And I had some great experiences. I met a lot of great people, and I really seen football then. Like, it wasn't they took it to another level. You know what I mean?
California, Texas,
It was
a little
training
different.
every
Correct.
day. You know what I mean? They trained every day. The coach was on me every day. They met with my mom personally. They took my transcripts, put them on the table. They wanted to see growth. I remember met this guy, Coach Winkler. He was the head coach at the time. He said, you're going to be my starting back for the next 3 years. Little did he know I was bleeding purple and gold. So I was kind of, homesick. I wanted to come back. I wanted to make my name in my city where I seen things develop on my own. I was there when Art was playing and Ram was there. I really wanted to play for Camden High. That was like, a dream. So I trained hard for like 4 months, 5 months. I came back 30 pounds heavier.
Yes, sir. So how did y'all end up back in Camden? If you wanted, who may share.
My dad was a military guy. He was
Okay.
like, you're going to work or you're going to go in the military. My mom was like, I don't think so. You know what I mean?
Yes,
My
sir.
sons, they came through the ranks, Centerville, Whitman Park. She sat me down and we had a conversation. I said, Mom, I really feel like I can make it. I can play, college ball. I think I can make the pros. She said, if you believe that, I'm going to send you back to your grandma. So I came back to A Street to my grandma, went to, through the neighborhood, seeing all my friends, everybody, oh, Martin back, and whoa, look how big you got. I really trained hard when I was out there.
Yeah.
And that was the stepping stone to get me, to where I was as an athlete. So coming back, I was a sophomore. I felt like I should have been playing varsity, but back then that area you had to go through the ranks.
That's
Coach
right.
Moore, Coach Turner. They was like senior oriented. Shouldn't have been that way. You know what I mean? The best player should have played, but at the time that's what we was going through.
And I think it was a wonderful experience, wonderful time. And like I said, I grew up across from the football field, so I got to be a little bit in tune to what was going on. Then a lot of people don't know I was the ball boy for Camden High School basketball team.
Right.
And that's why everybody know me as Lil Rook from 1975 to 78 till my oldest brother, Jesse Mustafa Walker, was playing. And I got to hang around Darryl Lee and,
Right.
the Doc Lee, the doctor, and so many wonderful people, Charles Payton, Lobby, Keith Strickland, and those so many wonderful people. And let's talk about some of the influence when we come back, the people that helped to influence you, not only in the community, but on the field. You talked about Mike Rozier
Right.
influenced you, but I'm pretty sure it was some wonderful people on that Camden High football team during that era you played that influenced you and helped you to get to where you was at. So we're going to come back and real quick. We're going to take a quick break and we're going to talk as we're talking with our brother Martin Sartin about some great people from Camden. And I want you to pay attention and to get, if you don't have young people, get some young people, sit down, go over this. We are on YouTube, and sit them down and let them see some of the great people that's coming out of Camden and what they have to say, so it can inspire some of our young people like we were inspired. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Savings Man here with a story for you about two young spenders named Tommy and Sue. Their parents let them buy whatever they chose, like video games and designer clothes. As they grew older, they spent all their pay on fancy cars, houses, 2 lattes a day. They lived in the moment, never saving a dime. When they tried to retire, they'd run out of time. Working forever is Tom and Sue's fate, so choose to save now before it's too late. Visit our website to find out more, 'cause a happy ending's worth saving for.
And greetings, we are back. We're having a wonderful conversation with a local here that's a standout athlete here in the city of Camden, and doing some wonderful things today with our brother, friend, brother Martin Sartin. He was, when we went away, he was talking about people that inspired you, and you talked about from Arnold Bird to Demary to Coach Pat and your mother and Mike Rozier. What are some of the people that you played with? As we always try to give homage to our teammates that we play with. That's not only people who excelled on the court, but excel off the court. And there's some wonderful people that you had the opportunity to play with in Camden.
Well, actually, going to the pro level, they called us the Camden Connection. Billy Thompson, Milt, I was right there, while they was playing in high school. And I seen some phenomenal players do some great things. But on the football field, there was a guy, Keenan Deltz.
Correct.
Keenan Deltz was a great wrestler. He was from the neighborhood, just lived, off of Van Hook Street.
Yes, sir.
And, he would take me out. And actually, we never played football. He played basketball. He was just a good athlete.
Yes, he was.
And he was strong. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. That's what inspired me. Like, why this guy's not a Division I player? He should be playing somewhere. But you got to be a complete player, a student athlete. You know what I mean?
And speaking about that, academics, what do you think was some of the challenges that you had academically? That that you wasn't focused, or was it that you really didn't think you had the tools, or what do you think it was?
I personally always heard I was smart, from player. So I did the minimum. Now, I could look at something, I got that, bam, and just do it. But I should have pressed it, you know what I mean? I should have studied a little harder. I'm looking at my GPA, okay, I'm a CB student, you know what I mean? I'm going to get through. I ain't got to work that hard. But then that changed. Going into my senior year, I started to worry, like, oh, my GPA need to be higher. I'm not sure what's going to happen with my SATs, because you're kind of taking it blind. So I just, I start changing myself, self-motivation. I started motivating myself, like, nobody's going to help me with this. This is something, if you want to go to the next level, you have to get things done. You can't play around with school. We could talk all day to some young people, and some of them just not going to do it. But it's going to be that group, that force, that we hope that dominate, that do some great things academically and come through and follow through. There's a lot of great people with a lot of potential that don't follow through, and they just never come through. They just never make it.
So you didn't get drafted, but you tried out as a free agent. Okay, so let the people know the history.
I should have got drafted. Like I said, I was MVP at Long Beach State my senior year, 13 touchdowns, 850 yards rushing, 40 catches. My quarterback was the second draft pick for the Cincinnati Bengals. My receiver, Charles Lockett, had 101 catches, went to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was still on the board, waiting, wondering. I never got called, so my little party kind of dissolved, at my apartment in Long Beach. But I got a call about 6 a.m., and I'll never forget it. This is Ron Wolf, player personnel for the Oakland Raiders, LA Raiders at the time. You're now a Raider, you know what I mean? Come pick up your, sign your contract, get your signing bonus. Everything changed all in one day. And I got a chance to be around some great players, Howie Long, Matt Millen, Lester Hayes, Mike Haynes, Plunkett.
Was Branch still there? Branch. I keep telling the people, they keep leaving him out of the conversation of great wide receivers, and I just don't understand why,
Not when you see him. He's one of the greatest I've ever seen.
Yes, sir.
But you know what? 86, my rookie year, they were winding down. They had won a couple of Super Bowls. Their career was really over. Al Davis gave them that last year on their contract, and then all the guys retired going into the 87 season. Howie Long was still there. Marcus Allen was still there, my mentor. So, I learned a lot of great things from them. But, back to Camden, I was inspired by Art Still and Dak Ramsey, but they were so far ahead of me. The only thing I wanted for one of those guys to come back and just say a few words to me, that would took me to another level. Come back and talk to these kids. Say something.
Yeah.
What was your journey like? So I took it upon myself to do it. I never really went through the ranks of.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is very, very important, and this is why I had that thought in mind when we decided to have this show, so that so that people wouldn't say, I wish somebody woulda, coulda, shoulda, came back and talked to me and had that conversation. Because I had a wonderful conversation in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I went to school at, with Art Still. It wasn't when we was in high school, because he very seldom came back, and I do got commitment from him when he do come into Camden and visit his family, come into this region, that he would stop by and give me an interview. But him and I had a wonderful conversation. I believe he was in his last year, and they were in Albuquerque. He was with the Chiefs, and they were playing against the Denver Broncos at the time. So they were in Albuquerque practicing at our college facility, because they wanted to practice in high altitude. As they got ready, because how that high altitude would, if you wasn't from that area, and you coming at high altitude, guys were playing in the pit. Guys would have oxygen tanks on the back of the bench, you know what I mean, because they couldn't get used to the high altitude, which is science for our young people. They need to understand that. But nevertheless, Art and I, we went out to dinner. We had a wonderful conversation and talking about home. And he kind of, even though he said he didn't visit Camden as much as he would like to, but he was calling me Lil Rook. He said, I know what you're doing, Lil Rook. We keep, I don't be at home, but we keep in contact with what's going on back in Camden. And, I read the newspaper then, and some family would let him know what was going on. So we had this thought in mind when we decided to have this show, so we can give back. See, a lot of people don't know. I knew your story, that you played for the Raiders, because when I came back to Camden, we were teaching together at Hatch Middle School there, and dealing with our young people, and that was an honorable thing to do, to come back and sub or teach in the city where you grew up at, so you can inspire young people. And you want to talk a little bit about that, as your time is, and after you play, because we're going to go back to your career, because you also played some great years in the Canadian Football League, and had some great experiences and some wonderful things that you did there. But you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's real easy to talk about. I had a good relationship with Dr. Webster at the time. When I would come home from Canada, when my football season was over, he called me and said, you need to come substitute teach. These kids need to see your face. You need to talk to them and tell your story. At the time, DeJuan Wagner might have been in the 7th grade, 6th grade, running around Morgan Village, and I was there. You know what I mean? And then I went to Hatch, and we moved around as subs, but it's real strange. You never know how kids look at you or how you're seen until later on in life. Now, some of these kids now are 20, 30 years old. They say, hey, Mr. Sartin. I'm like, oh. You know what I mean? You see them. It's a great feeling to go into a classroom, to show some leadership, you know what I mean? To get kids going, motivated academically. That'll get kids' pencils moving once they see somebody come here that did it, that traveled, that got the opportunity to see the world. You know what I mean? I just used to go in there and not even teach exactly what was told to teach, but really I just really would tell my story and let the kids know, give me a question, let me tell you what you need, your GPA you need to get to college. This is what you need to do to go to school, you know what I mean? What are your options, you know what I mean? What are you trying to do? You really got to have a vision. Football is not something that anybody can just play. You know what I mean? You can't just go out there. You have to have some athletic ability, and you have to be smart. And the one thing I did, I took notes. I knew how tall I had to be. I knew how fast I had to be. I knew how much I needed to weigh. You know what I mean? I knew I needed to, make some honors to be seen, to be at a Division I college. Now, how I'm going to get there? You got to put it together academically. So, when I used to go in the classroom, when I told them that story, kids start working harder. You know what I mean? They start saying, okay, I need to do this. Well, I'm going to do this. So I can make it happen. And that was always my story, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just don't need to be seen. You can be behind the scenes and make things happen. And you can lead without doing a lot of talking.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So I don't, even in my neighborhood today, I don't have to say a lot of much. I'm respected, in the Centerville area. They know me, they love me, but they have questions for me. I actually was out at a social event, an older guy said, well, Martin knows how many credits you need for your social degree. I'm like 60. He's like, I told you, you know what I mean? So, they, you know, people in the community want information. You know what? And the one reason, which is funny, that my degree, you know, criminal justice, I thought I was going to save Centerville. I actually said, you know, I'm going to give everybody information not to go to jail. You know what I mean? You need this information so you know when you're in front of this judge what you're doing. You know what I mean? That was always my, I'll help somebody else. I'd rather go on the street corner, get somebody $1 and talk to them for 5 minutes. You know, but then, you know, I can be with the president of the Raiders, you know, Reggie McKenzie, you know, I can go to Long Beach, go to Hollywood with no problem. You know, I mean, I just actually relocated 5 months ago. I was assistant football coach at Riverside City College in Riverside, California. I came home because I have a son here in Somerdale, and he's going to be raised by his dad. So, you know, trying to do the right thing, you know, you might lose a little, but when it's about your kids and your own kids, you can win, you know.
Yes,
I'm just teaching my kids to win. I gave it everything I had. My career was short, you know what I mean? But as long as I could inspire just one kid, you know what I mean? And take them on the journey, you know, that I took, you know, it was important to me to give back.
Yes, sir. Well, I think you said a lot in what you were just saying in that, and I hope that the audience wouldn't, or the viewing audience would not, you know, waver to see some of the things that you were saying, and we're going to go back and revisit some of the things you were just saying that's very important, you know, academics and getting your degree and going into different rooms, and because we all know that you was the man when you come out of high school, you know, and you was the man on your team, whether you was on the court or you was on the football field or on the track. But once you go to college in those big schools, everybody was everything where they were at. So you have to prepare yourself, and you have to say, you know, your priorities changed a little bit.
Right.
You know, playing in the WAC conference during the time I was at New Mexico, we had Tim Hardaway and some other players, BYU there, and some other great players, UNLV, great teams, Larry Johnson, all of them was there at the WAC, and you know, I said, I think I better pay a little attention to this professor, what she's saying a little bit more.
Exactly.
Because this just might not, you know, might not happen, and you always got to have a backup plan, and that's some of the wonderful things that you were talking about, and our people need to see that. And you also talked about, you know, with your criminal justice degree that you had, that you was going to give everybody the information that they need. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with, you know, as we come out and inspire being green, as we get, you know, I want to help everybody, but our people sometimes will quickly let you know to bring that thing down, that you can't help them all, but you're going to help some. And you talked about even if you can just talk to one, if you need to get to them, you'll do what you have to do. As we old saying say, if I climb a mountain 40 miles high just to get one, then I have done job well done, and that's what we are speaking to. So we're going to come back and talk about a lot of those moments that you had there, and we're going to go back to that. And with that, and we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back with our brother and friend, Brother Martin Sartin. And you know, this, if you're sitting down at the television, call someone, let them know that the Wasim Muhammad show is viewing and is on air, and so people need to hear the story from great people of Camden, our county, and our region. We'll be right back.
I realized at that moment, these people really needed us. And I was going to make a difference, right here in my community.
Be there for your community at NationalGuard.com.
Greetings, and we're back. And as we're winding down on this last segment of the Wasim Muhammad show, we're talking to our friend, our brother and friend here from the city of Camden, from the Centerville section, as they say, the unofficial headquarters of Camden, you know, Centerville, as Martin Sartin. And we're going to allow you, Martin, to talk about some things that you want to talk about, some of the things that you're doing now. And, you know, I think we talked a lot about what you did in the past and what got you to where you were at. Talk about some things now. You want to talk about, you know, what you're doing now and some of the things you would like to see more of in our community, and what would you like to contribute more of in our community?
You know, I think when players, you know, former athletes come home, they should come home to open arms. And, you know, sometimes you don't get that. And I've been pushed out of the way, you know, getting coaching positions and stuff like that. But I never let that stop me. I never let that bother me. You know, it's all about the kids. And some people bypass that. You know, they make it about themselves. But the bottom line, we got to have positive kids coming behind us. You know what I mean? So, you know, I looked at that situation. I'm like, you know, it's like 30 kids that need to go to college that's not going. You know, I always had a great relationship with my junior college coach. God bless him, Al Branco. And I talked to him about it one day. I said, you know, I got about, you know, 15 college football players that have nowhere to go. And he said, I'll take 8. You know, and that was the start. You know, my first star was former Camden High defensive end Keith Turner. Grew up in Centerville. Keith Turner went on to the College of Sequoia, got a full ride to Cal State Northridge, and now he's one of the top trainers in LA. You know, he's rolling. You know, I got a lot of stories like that. So I've sent over 75 kids to school on my own. You know what I mean? Just hand them out, just making phone calls. To the point where I don't even call coaches no more. Pretty much the state of New Jersey, you know, the top athletes that have poor SAT scores, they normally call me. You know what I mean? So I got like 15, 20 kids calling me now. And I'm real proud of 2 right now. So Camden High's Salvador Henderson, you know, received a scholarship to Sequoia just 2 days ago. Omar Talley, defensive back for Woodrow Wilson, real proud of him, received a scholarship. You know what I mean? Them guys will be out of here August 1st, you know, while I monitor, you know, their situation. Because, you know, once you make that step to go to school, you have to start separating yourself right then. You know what I mean?
Right.
Things you used to do, you know, because jealousy and envy is at a high level. You know what I mean? And you never know who's hating on you, especially these young people today. You know what I mean? They don't talk it out. They don't fight it out. Nobody's getting black eyes no more. And then hugging the next day. We was all friends.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's what upset me. I mean, take time to find out or talk to a person, even in a tight situation. You know what I mean? And it's just changed. But to see those kids, you know, the kids that went before the 2 this year, to, you know, to walk on the same campus as me and call me back and say, hey, I'm on Mooney Boulevard in Visalia, California, and you know, I talked to this teacher, they remember you. You know, that's exciting for me, you know what I mean? And I actually had a pro come out there. So, you know, about 5 years ago, I sent John Dempsey from Collinswood High School, went there, became an All-American at Louisville, Cleveland Browns. So you can do it. You know, it's how hard you work. You know, out of those 75 kids, I think maybe like 15 might have came home. But the rest, they graduates and they all over the country, you know, Morehouse and Texas State and, like I said, Louisville and Oregon. You know, I got kids everywhere after they commit that, you know, 2-year period. And I step by step, I take them through it. You know what I mean? You need to keep over a 2.5, you know, at the junior college level to get out.
GPA,
you know what I mean?
yes.
Yeah, your GPA. You don't have to worry about SATs for that situation, but community college, as you know, is tough.
That's right.
You know, you can get into a lot of bad situations, and you got to be focused. You know, because it's not dorms. You know, 90% of the time it's apartments. People coming from all over, Alabama, Georgia, Florida. You experience it. You know what I mean? And you know, you got to get the right roommates and the right people around you. The smartest thing I ever did, I started looking at people's GPA. You know, all my friends are like, what's your GPA? 4.0. You my friend. You know what I mean? I start connecting myself with people that were smarter than me, that could get me through it. You know what I mean? And that's what you need to surround yourself with. You know, if you're bright, you have a bright mind, and you know, you need some help, you need to surround yourself around people that's either going in the same direction that you're going in, or that can inspire you.
Yeah, I think that's so important that we, as we were saying, versatility.
Right.
And I think that that's that we don't see too much of, and we want to instill in our young people to be a little more versatile and just don't have the media and tell you what music you should listen to,
Right.
what group you should hang around, what you should be around. That, you know, being original people, being black people, we all over the place. And there's black people in Bel Air.
Right.
You know, there's black communities, rich communities in Maryland, and you know, things like that. So don't be one-sided and hang around. Because what made me think about that is you saying that when you saw that somebody had a 4.0 GPA, you say, I'm hanging around them.
Right.
You know, because you can, it's kind of like being a bee. You know, a
Exactly.
bee goes around and get honey from every tree, of different views and different colors. And if we can pay attention scientifically to what bees do, then we can be able to be successful when it comes to education and coming to getting out of the situations we find ourselves in as young people. And, you know, I too, in high school, I could hang around what they would call the nerds, the guys that was getting 3 or 4.8
Right.
students. I could hang around what they call some of the, you know, not so nerdy guys that we call in our community the thugs.
Right.
And even though the thuggery was totally different then than
Exactly.
you see it today. Like you said, you had a fist fight, you go home, you was boys the next day, you know?
Exactly.
And our young people are, you know, doing some things that is unheard of in our generation. But it's about traveling. It's about exposing ourselves to things that we may not be exposed to, and it expands your mind. And you giving young people that opportunity to go out and to California and different countries, I mean different cities and states
Right.
around the globe, to go to 2-year colleges, to get a second chance to make it again, speaks to what everything that I think that we want our young people to do. And I think you need to keep doing that, and it's a wonderful thing. I know your mother's proud of you. I know your family's proud of you. And I know I was proud of you, you know, seeing you accomplish when I was in high school, just like with Mike Rozier, you guys were before me, and we paid attention. Stacy Johnson, we know as Wasim Muhammad now, you guys were heroes to me, even though I played basketball, and y'all inspired me to do what I'm doing now, and that's why we must give back to our young people and give back to our community.
Right.
Yes, sir. So anything you want to say in closing?
That's definitely something I wanted to mention. I didn't mention. You know, even though he was from Woodrow Wilson, I was, you know, I looked up to Stacy. Stacy Johnson is one of my mentors
Yes,
as
sir.
a young guy. And also, people don't realize, if I'm not mistaken, he's the first black quarterback to go to Michigan.
That's right.
On top of that, he trained me. So when I came home, you know, playing pro ball, we would go to Camden High Field, it would be a crowd. People would sit up there and watch. Stacy throw me the ball. And then educated, he's an engineer. So all these things, you know, I gravitated to people that was community people, that was smart.
See, people don't know that. See,
Right.
when you talked about the workouts you used to have with Brother Stacy,
Right.
you know, they were at Camden High football field. Mind you, I grew up across the street from Camden, so that's why I was exposed to seeing y'all do some wonderful things and exposed to the atmosphere. As I would just sit there and watch and say, and for me, it was saying, you know, by high school, I said, I ain't getting on that football field. Them guys too serious about what they doing. We played little league, but the workouts was vigorous, and, you know, just being able to see that and experience that. And that's why I want to tell this story and tell young people at Camden that what you are exposed to, things you see, places you go, you know, not just, you know, being a program, as I call it, program generation, and seeing so many different things. You can take it from there.
Right, you know, I also wanted to say something about my era. You know, the 70s, you know, being a kid and going into the 80s, it was just a loving time in Camden. You know, people loved each other. You know, we was more connected. And it's an Italian guy in the area that black kids are just gravitating to, Frank Felipe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Here's this guy, scrunchy looking guy, beard, fat stomach. People don't realize if you went to Whitman Park, that was an all-star team.
Correct.
If you played there, you was nice. You know what I mean? And people like, are you gonna go out there this year? You know what I said, I'm ready. You know what I mean? So half them guys might have played 4 or 5 years on the same team. Once again, it was growth. You know, that was the greatest experience I ever had. For one, it gave Camden national attention. We were the number 3 ranked little league team in the country, and we traveled. You know, in 8th grade, you got about 50 Camden kids traveling to Atlanta in the middle of the night. You know, we went down there, Atlanta, we won 40-7. That crowd, I remember like yesterday, their crowd started cheering for us as kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how bad we was beating them down. And all those guys on that team went on to Camden High, became big stars. Mark Jones and myself, Willie Fussell ended up going to Paul Six, and you know, we had Ronnie Judge, we had Tom Bond. You know, we had some guys that went on to play. You know, I just went a little further. You know what I mean? But it was exciting to travel. You know, just to be on the bus, going somewhere. You know, just seeing another place. You know, in the world. You know, as an adult, I've been to Atlanta plenty of times, and to this day, I don't know exactly where I was as a kid. I wish I knew. I'd have went back to that facility. All I remember, they was the Little Red Devils. They was big. We was a little nervous, but we was tough kids. You know what I mean? After 2 or 3 plays, I had told Mark Jones and Tom, I said, they're not gonna last a quarter. You know what I mean? We start hearing them making noise and crying. I'm like, oh, they gave up already. So we ended up blowing them out, and it was a great time. And you know, if you play Whitman Park, you know, you got jackets, you got trophies.
Correct, yeah.
You know what I mean? Kids just wanted something. You know what I mean? And we gravitated to that. And I just, I thank God for that guy, man. Because he, you know, some people hated on him.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Yeah, but he did a lot for the community. He saved a lot of kids. All these kids that went places that they never gonna go again, Florida and Massachusetts, and like I said, Atlanta. You know, he got us out the city. You know,
exposing to so many.
He gave us a lot of exposure.
Yeah. Well, Martin, I'm glad that you came in and took the opportunity to come back and talk to the community, our residents here in Camden, and I hope that they can get something out of what you spoke about and some of your experiences in life. And I'm glad, you know, by the Creator to have this opportunity to give you to express, to be a conduit for you to express this, what you're expressing to our young people. I think it was a great conversation and a great conversation we had. And I thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. There we go. And we want to thank you for viewing another show of the Wasim Muhammad Show. We'll be back to you again next week, as always. And it's a wonderful thing. As always, I thank the mayor of this wonderful city, Mayor Dana Red, and her staff, particularly Ms. Novella Starks Henson, and as well as our superintendent, the partnership with the Camden City Board of Education, Superintendent Payman Rahanaford. And on behalf of the advisory board members, our advisory board president, Catherine Blackshear, and Vice President, Ms. Martha Wilson, I greet you as I came to you in peace, and see you again next week. Thank you.